Historical legal background of Oman. The Sultanate of Oman is a central Islamic monarchy in the Arabic Gulf, having Muscat as its capital. It is composed of 4 districts: Muscat, Musandam, Shohar, and Al Bareme, and 5 areas: the internal, the central, the middle, the eastern, and Al Jahira. The Sultanate gained its independence in July 1970, and it was since governed by Sultan, the King Qaboos. Prior to 1971, the Sharia Islamic courts had the jurisdiction to decide on civil and criminal matters in addition to personal status matters. The Sultan Qaboos bin Said Al Said ushered in a new era of judicial and administrative reforms in the judicial system in the Sultanate. The legal order of the Sultanate of Oman has been largely codified in a constitution issued by the Royal Decree No. 101/96 on 6 November 1996. The legislation in the Sultanate of Oman consists of 2 types: the primary and secondary legislation. Primary legislation is the one promulgated by the Sultan, known as the Royal Decree. The secondary legislation is issued pursuant to ministerial decisions according to special powers delegated by royal decrees to the concerned executive or ministerial body. The legal system in Oman is composed of a mixture of the Anglo-Saxon law and the Islamic law. The religion of the state is Islam, and Islamic Sharia is the basis of legislation, Article 2 of the Constitution. Jurisdiction for deciding on disputes in commercial matters was earlier vested with the authority known as the Authority of the Settlement of Commercial Disputes, ASCD. The Royal Decree No. 13/97 brought changes in the title structure and powers of the ASCD that can now be defined by the commercial courts. This court comprises of a triple structure with the Supreme Court based in Muscat, 6 courts and appeal at Muscat, Nijwa, Shohar, Ibri, and Salalah, and about 45 courts of first instance disseminated on the various districts of the Sultanate. With the promulgation of the Royal Decree No. 90/99, the judicial authority and the formation of the Supreme Court exercising appellate or cassatory jurisdiction over all other courts in the country came into effect. An important innovation was the introduction of courts with jurisdiction to try and settle claims up to Oman real 15,000 only. Claims exceeding Omanian real 15,000 are to be tried and settled by primary courts or chambers of first instance. According to Royal Decree 13/97, all governmental bodies, departmental authorities, and general institutions fall within the realm of the court's jurisdiction. System of government of Oman. Succession. The system of government is a hereditary sultanate in which succession passes to a male descendant of Sayyid Turki bin Said bin Sultan. Within 3 days of the position of Sultan becoming vacant, the council of the ruling family shall determine upon who will succeed to the throne. If the council fail to agree upon a successor, the defense council shall confirm the appointment of person designated by the Sultan in its letter to the family council. It is a condition that the male who is chosen to rule should be an adult Muslim of sound mind and a legitimate son of Omani Muslim parents, Article 5. The chosen Sultan assumes his powers after taking the oath, Article 7. The powers of the Sultan include the protection of Oman's sovereignty and the rights of its citizens, the rule of law, representing the state on the national and international levels, presiding the sessions of the Council of Ministers, appointing and recusing the highest judges, and declaration of peace and war, issuing and ratifying laws, signing the treaties. Principles and rights. The governance is practiced according to political, economic, social, cultural, and security principles laid down in Article 10 to 14 of the Constitution, that is the property of the state over natural resources, a free market national economy, the prohibition of confiscation of private property, equality of opportunity between Omani citizens. The Constitution has also provided various civil rights that should be protected during the conduct of the governmental system. Those rights include, among others, the equality between citizens before the law, their equality in public rights and duties, and the prohibition of discrimination between them on the grounds of gender, origin, color, language, religion, sect, domicile, or social status. Article 17. Other civil rights provided by the Constitution are related to law and law enforcement and the criminal court conduct, such as the prohibition of arbitrary detention, Article 18 and 24, personal integrity and the prohibition of torture and other inhuman treatment, Article 20. The presumption of innocence and its respect the respect of the right of due process, Article 22, access to justice, Article 25, freedom of religion, Article 28, of expression, Article 29, the communication, Article 30, the press, Article 31, of assembly and associations, Article 32 and 33, all in accordance with the law and in the respect of public policy. Extradition is also prohibited for political refugees, while it is subject to the provisions of international law and agreement for criminals, Article 36. Hierarchy of laws. Article 72 of the Constitution placed the treaties and agreements concluded between the Sultanate of Oman and other states and international bodies and organizations above the Constitution, since it provides that the application of the latter shall not infringe those agreements. International treaties and agreements enter into force upon ratification. Transparency in international relations is protected by the Constitution, since no treaty or agreement may contain secret conditions that contradict its declared conditions. While the Constitution placed the treaties on the top of the legal hierarchy, however, the laws and procedure which have the force of law must conform to the provisions of the Constitution, Article 79. In addition, no organ in the state may issue rules, regulations, decisions, or instructions which contravene the provisions of laws and decrees in force, or international treaties and agreements which constitute part of the law of the country, Article 80. The powers within the Sultanate. The head of state. The Sultan is the head of state and the supreme commander of the armed forces. The Sultan is the symbol of national unity as well as its guardian and defender. Among his functions laid down in Article 42 of the Constitution, the Sultan maintains the rights and freedoms of all citizens, guarantees the rule of law, takes prompt measures to counter any threat to the safety of the state or its territorial integrity, represents the state both internally and externally in all international relations, presides over the Council of Ministers or appoints a person to serve in that position, appoints and dismisses the deputy prime ministers, ministers, and those of their rank, appoints and dismisses senior judges, declares peace or war, issues and ratifies laws. As mentioned above, the Sultan is in ex officio the President of the Council of Ministers. He is assisted in drafting and implementing the general policy of the state by the Council and other specialized organs. The Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers is the body entrusted with implementing general state policies for economic, social, administrative developments. The Council submits its in particular its economic, political, social recommendations to the Sultan and proposes the draft laws and decrees. The Council supervises the enforcement of the laws, decisions and treaties, fosters the welfare of citizens and ensures the provisions of health and other essential services in order to improve their quality of life on all social, cultural, and economic aspects, oversees the smooth running of the state's administrative apparatus and the performance of its duties, monitors the implementation of all laws, decrees, ordinances, and decisions, and ensures that they are in compliance with the treaties and case law. The Sultan shall preside over the council's sessions and has the right to entrust the chairmanship of sessions that he does not attend to one of the deputy prime ministers. If the minister is the prime minister and his deputies are absent, the Sultan will authorize whoever he sees fit to chair the sessions. The quorum required for a valid holding of the council's sessions is the majority of its members. Its deliberations are secret and the decisions are issued with the approval of a majority of those present during the session. The council adopts its own rule of procedure for the holding of its sessions. The Prime Minister. As aforementioned, the Sultan presides over the Council of Ministers. However, he may appoint a Prime Minister for that position in its later situation. In the later situation, the competence and omission of the Prime Ministers will be limited to those specified in the decrees of his appointment, Article 48. Based on Article 42 of the Constitution mentioned above, the Sultan appoints as well the Deputy Prime Minister and the ministers. They will supervise the affairs of their ministers and organizations and implement the general policy of the government that they are hearing, as well as drawing up future guidelines and follow up on their implementation. Members of the Council of the Ministers are held jointly and several are liable before the Sultan in carrying out the general policies of the state, and each is individually responsible before the Sultan for the discharge of his duties and the exercise of his powers, Article 52. The members of the Council of Ministers are not allowed to combine their ministerial position with the chairmanship or membership of the board of any joint stock company, nor may the government department of which they are in charge have dealing with any company or organization in which they have an interest, whether direct or indirect. They should be guided in all their actions by considerations of national interest and public welfare and should not exploit their official positions in any way for their own benefit or for the benefit of those with whom they have special relationships. Thank you for watching. I'm Shamim.